Hello, this is Alan Wheeler on my YouTube channel where I talk about spirituality and tarot, and I'd like to present a short video um, about how to do shadow work on the various religions we find in the world. And what got me to thinking about this is I recently had a meeting with a local pastor who was interested in knowing why I've stepped back from attending organized church services, and was able to talk with him, but it got me to thinking about the Hierophant and the role of um, religion. And so it came to mind that we can do shadow work um, in the sense of the familiar projective test, or I should say that the familiar projection that we find ourselves doing, um, that is kind of a hallmark of the need to do shadow work, so that when we're name calling and seeing bad things in others, often it's something that resides in ourselves as well, or even more so. And I think the cliche is that when you point the finger, you have more fingers pointing back at yourself. So I thought, this might be a good litmus test for religions, um, and to ask, what does a religion say about other religions, and use that as a way of working backwards to do shadow work on various religions. So, being a channel focused on tarot, I pulled some Hierophant cards from various decks, and the first one is from the Marseille, and it's the most traditional. It's the Pope, of course, in those old decks. And this is, to me, represents religions that would say all other religions are evil. They're all bad, other than us. Us and them, they're all bad. And this would be a warning sign that there's deep shadow trouble in that religion, and that it's possibly itself in bad shape. So this to me would not just be the Catholic Church, but this would just be the more ancient approach to religion, whether tribal or national, with the tutelary gods, when the various groups are fighting, and then whichever group is winning, they think their god is winning in the heavens, and leading to crusades and battles, just that ancient approach. And to me, it's the kind of the toxic fundamentalism. So it could be in Islam, it could be in Reconstructionist or literalist pagan groups, regardless of the spirituality or faith itself. It's just that approach that's, when you see a person or group or religion saying the others are absolutely evil, demonizing the others, then that's the warning sign to me. Moving a step up, you might come across a group or religion that says all other religions can be accepted, but they are lesser. We may not be the one true group, the one true path, but we're the best. And to me, this might be reflective of something like the Rider-Waite-Smith Hierophant, not often interpreted by tarot readers in a positive light, I think. Of course, mileage will vary there, but given that the designers came from an initiatory group, the Golden Dawn, which has orders and structures and rituals, but wanted to get away from the name of the Pope and those negative connotations, they used the Hierophant, lending that Egyptian or exotic flavor. And some decks will have the High Priest. But there's still an idea that the other approaches are lesser. So this can still lead to the need for some shadow work at being too rigid, maybe egocentric, egoistic, and so on. Now there's the possibility that the approach will be, I'm okay, you're okay. And to exemplify this kind of, to me, healthy approach, I brought the Tarot of Vampires version of the Hierophant. Now this could be perhaps seen as a bit of a left-hand path approach. But here, if you read the guidebook, Phantasmagoria, in which it's explained in quite a bit of detail, the figure here sitting on the pedestal is the macrocosm, and dangling from his hand is the five-pointed pentacle here, representing the microcosm, also represented by Venus here, who is bowing before the Ancient of Days here. But most of the description in the guidebook is quite positive, and so the Ancient of Days is seen as a kind of a reflection of the divine self, and the healthy spirituality of tapping into that higher self, sometimes called the holy guardian angel in Thelema and some different approaches. However, Ian Daniels in the guidebook does point out that this holy guardian angel or higher self can, in shadow, become rigid dogma, and those family structures and those healthy traditions can become rigid and strangling in shadow. Now, one reason I said this can include the left-hand path is if you look into the hooded figure here with the horns, it's empty, there's no face there, so it's almost becomes that Tao, that nameless way of Taoism, or the self-created divinity of the higher self. So this is, nonetheless, this approach is more accepting of all other approaches and would seem to me pretty healthy. Another response to what does your religion say about other religions would be they're all good. And I have the card, the Hierophant from Tarot of Dreams here, and it's called Faith. And it gets away entirely from kind of the negative aspects, really, of spirituality, and you kind of have all the symbols of many religions encircling here this card called Faith. And there's the Om of the Hindu, the Buddhist wheel, the Muslim moon and star, the pentagram, and several others around this figure who also can't be identified by any one ethnicity. It's hard to tell old or young, male or female. It's kind of an all-inclusive figure here with just the bald head to signify wisdom. So this is probably a good approach, being accepting and open and inclusive of all these religions. And then I'll add one more possibility, and that's not only are all approaches good, but you could say all approaches are perfect, all approaches are heavenly. And this other extreme, to me, could be a toxic idealism. It might actually exclude agnostics and atheists and left-hand practitioners and others surreptitiously or kind of in a subtle manner. This approach I don't often see in tarot decks or among tarot readers, I think by nature of the type of people involved in those practices. But in a way, I'll come back to the Marseille Pope card because in certain ways of reading, you've almost come to that same attitude. You've just lumped all maybe mainstream spirituality in together there. So I'm sure I haven't worked out all the kinks, but here's some food for thought that you can do a little shadow work by saying, what do you think about other religions? And use it as a maybe personal shadow work as a self-reflexive exercise. I'm sure I often catch myself being judgmental, and it's a possibility that I try to keep myself from, now that I've kind of changed camps, from becoming judgmental of where I came from, which is a topic that I discuss elsewhere on the channel. Well, thank you so much for viewing and for considering this method of doing shadow work on religions. As always, I hope you find connection with people in your life, with online community, and on your spiritual path, whatever that might be. Take care.